Hello, welcome to my class. Today we will be learning about the life cycle of a plant. To start off with, I'd like to show the class a few different types of plants that I think are really cool. So this one is a cactus. A cactus, they usually grow really well in the desert because they don't need as much water as most plants. And you have to be careful of them because they have these spiky edges and they can actually really hurt your finger if you prick yourself. Here's another example of a cactus. This is another plant that you might see in the desert because they need less water than most plants. They're not as high maintenance as a lot of plants are. A lot of plants, they need more water and they're a little bit more finicky, like it might need a certain kind of sunlight. And one example of a plant that you need to take a little more special care to make sure that it stays alive is an orchid. Orchids are some of my very favorite plants. I think that they're so beautiful. And orchids, as you can see, they have these beautiful flowers. For an orchid, you have to make sure that it has the right kind of sunlight. It has to have bright sunlight, but indirect. So if it's too much in the sun, like if you put it outside on a spot in your yard that's very sunny, it could actually make it wilt. It could be too much sunlight for the orchid. So an orchid is good to have maybe inside of your house, near a window, but not directly in the sunlight. I love these. And the class is welcome to come up and you can look closer. You can even touch the flowers as long as you're gentle. So what does the class think are a few things that a plant might need to grow? Can you think of anything? So what plants need to grow is water, soil, and sunlight. So most plants start out as seeds, and seeds can come in all different shapes, sizes, and colors. So I'm going to start by drawing a little picture of a seed. So some seeds are really, really tiny. Some of them are a little bit bigger. Some of them are more round. Some of them might be more oval. It all depends on what type of plant it is. So seeds have a layer on the outside. They have a coating on the outside to protect the seed. So that keeps the seed protected from anything that might harm it before it's ready to grow. So that's a protective shield on the seed. When seeds are placed into dirt, so it could either be inside of the soil or it could be right on top of the soil. So this could be soil that is on the ground or in the ground, or it could be if you want to put soil in a pot and you want to grow a plant at your house. And the seed will need 3 things to grow into a sprout. The first is that it must be in or on the soil. The second is that it needs either rain or water that, say if you had a house plant, you could put water onto the plant and it will actually soften the coat of the seed that I was telling you about, that protective layer that the seed has. It will soften that, and then it also needs sunlight, because the sunlight, what that will actually do is, as that protective coat is softening, the sunlight will help warm things up in a process called germination. And then what will happen is that a little sprout will come through the seed, and that starts the process of the plant actually, the seed growing into a plant. So roots will then come down from the seed into the soil, and a little sprout will come up above the ground. So what do the roots do? The roots, their job is to take nutrients from the soil and water. So soil actually has nutrients and minerals in it. Minerals, that's like food for the plant. So it's something that if you were to look at dirt, you don't see the minerals, but they're very, very tiny. And those are actually absorbed by the roots. These little tiny roots, they can absorb these minerals as well as the water from the rain or from water that you put on the plant. The roots absorb it and it uses it as nutrients, as power to help the seed sprout up this little shoot. This is called a shoot, and it comes up from the soil. So in the shoot, it grows upwards towards the sun. So the next phase is that from the little sprout, the plant will continue to grow. The roots will continue to grow into the earth or into a little pot if you're growing it at home. And the shoot will continue to grow up into a plant. So in this plant has a few different parts. This is the root, this is the stem, and these are the leaves. The leaves are very important because the leaves actually make the food for the whole plant, which is pretty amazing. It's a process through which they take the sunlight and from the sun, and then they take the nutrients and the water from the soil that come down through the roots, and they are actually able to use those powers, the power of the sun, the power of the nutrients from the soil and the water, and they combine it to make food that allows the plant to grow big and strong. Now some plants, not all plants flower, but for the ones who do, there is a next phase in which these plants, they start to bud. So first, they form little buds, and they look sort of like this. It can look kind of like a little ball. And then, with time, those buds will eventually bloom into a flower. To close the class, I will pass around markers and paper and have each child draw their own interpretation of the 4 different phases of the plant life cycle that we covered in class. Thank you.